Hi everybody! In this video, I'll chat with my friend and teacher Ebby Salinas about her experience from living surrounded by crystals to going to zero and what she had learned by going through this. Abby is an astrologer, numerologist, card reader, and Reiki master who for over 30 years has been helping people to see the life patterns, themes, and cycles that are keeping them from living their life's purpose and happiness. She is also a member of Beyond the Cosmic Table, a podcast you can find here in YouTube. So let's chat with Abby. Hello, my friend Abby. How are you? Thank you for being with Everyday Crystal Magic audience here in YouTube.
Hello, Ileana. Thank you for having me here. You look so beautiful today.
Thank.
Well, actually, you look beautiful every day.
Oh, you're too kind. So uh, again, I want to start these interviews with people for which crystals is not their main thing, or crystals came later in their life, and that was the case when I first met you. You were
Exactly.
not into crystal. I mean, you're an astrologer, expert astrologist, numerologist. You're an energy healer, and this thing that is now so popular wasn't in your life. And then time passed on. How you turn into a no crystal person to a crystal person?
Well, it's so easy to think you're a crystal person in the beginning. So I knew the basics. I knew the quartz amplify. So I knew the basics to help my clients. People that were coming to me for healing, I knew the rose quartz. I knew the materials to pass on to them that were essentials, but they were all basics. They were all basic knowledge. And it wasn't until you started becoming the expert that you started teaching me. And that's when everything was like the floodgates open, because I was just, and so a lot of my friends that I know, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I know about crystals. But I noticed they just knew the level of those of us who are professionals that can help somebody get started. Now, when you want to dig deep, you need to find a Liliana and have her in your life, because that is when everything changed for me. And it wasn't until you, and that's when the more high level, it's almost like when you're starting to enjoy wine and you're like, I don't really care for that wine but it's an acquired taste. The more sophisticated the palate becomes, the more you're able to distinguish the smell, the aroma, the energy. To
Oh,
me, crystals are like fine wine.
oh
It's
my
when
God.
you, right? Because that is when you become more
That's
mature
fun.
and more sophisticated in what you're. Now, watch, we're on video, right?
Yes.
Okay, now watch. Look at everybody, look at Ileana's face when I say Vogel crystal.
Oh my God.
There you go. See? See? If I would have just said quartz, it wouldn't have gotten such a response. But Vogel crystal, there you go.
Well, I think it's a subject that is not taught in many schools, and it's probably because of the technical part.
Right.
But and this was part of a conversation that I was having with our other friends from the table, Diane and Lee, yesterday, that you can have a crystal in its natural shape, and it's going to be there, and it's going to be emitting an energy,
Mhm.
but until that crystal is shaped in a certain way and you add the coherence element, it, the work is not done yet. So,
Exactly.
but I don't want to
Exactly.
digress. At those times when I've been knowing you for, I want to say, over 7 years now, and that was a learning time for me too,
Yes.
because I was in between many modalities, and the first one I always said was energy healing, and then I was living in the right place and surrounded by the right people to getting into crystals. But how you in 30 years, like you say, you knew
Mhm.
enough, but then you started surrounding your crystals, and then you got a bigger place. and you created a learning and loving place. And all of a sudden, these crystals were all over the place, and not all crystals. I mean, I want our audience to know one thing that I always recommend people when they do crystal grids is be mindful what you do with this grid and where you place it. And this
Exactly.
lady had crystal grids in her bedroom, which I do not recommend. And then you go into the sunroom and there's like 3 crystal grids there,
Yes, yes,
alive. And because that wasn't enough, there was always something in the table, the
right.
actual and metaphorical table that later on became the cosmic table. But so this was going on for 4 years or
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
and
Yes.
then life changes. Life changes. You're moving now. You're between homes, waiting for that perfect home to come to you, and all of a sudden you are with 0 crystals. Tell us what happened.
Oh my gosh. Well, not only did I have all the crystals in the home and in the office area, I was wearing, for those of you who are a little more aware, I was wearing a Moldavite necklace, a pendant. I had Danbarite, which is another high energy. And I was gifted, I always say the name of this one wrong, Aqua Prase. I
Mm,
think it's called Aqua Pras. It's AQUAPRASE.
price of praise.
Maybe it's a beautiful aqua color.
Mm,
And that was
aqua green, light green.
yes, yes. And my good friend Delilah gifted me that. And so I wore these all the time,
Mm,
very high vibration. And when I say I wear them all the time, I wore them to bed. I wore them 24 hours a day, and I liked it. I liked the high vibration. I liked that it helped me in astral traveling. I liked that it helped me in lucid dreaming. I felt very centered and very balanced with this. And then you go out every morning into my home, and you, like Ileana described, I didn't have just small pieces. I had very good sizes in around the house. And so our home was also known for having a lot of non-physical visitors here and there showing up.
bus station.
And yeah, it was like O'Hare, but I loved it, and I never, it was always a good feeling, and so I liked that high vibration. And so as a pit stop, my friend invited me to stay at her home while I'm in between my homes. And I didn't want to bring such high vibration into a home without knowing what the vibration was in the home. And so they're not, new agey people. They don't collect crystals. They don't have that kind of energy going on in the home. And I didn't want to be imposing my energy to them. But what ended up happening to me is I took off the Moldavite, the Danvite, my ring, and all my crystals, and I felt like I was going through drug withdrawals. I was very
Wow.
sluggish. I felt like when you see in movies when they show the scene where somebody's face falls in the salad, it took a lot for me to keep my energy. And I'm very grateful that my friend is somebody who's very energetic. So
So you felt sluggish because your vibration was just set to be at that level. And all of a sudden it was without a transition or ramping down, it was instantly no crystal. I want to say that what you did was very considerate, not bringing that kind of big difference of in vibration into a home. That was very thoughtful of you. And it's good for our audience to know that you've been feeling that with physical activity, but were you expecting that kind? Because you've always been a high vibration person, but you
no,
expecting that kind of withdrawal?
no, it was very shocking to me,
Wow.
because it affects you physically, and I had no idea that that was gonna And you know that that I was, for a period of time, I was not healthy. And so I was put on a lot of these medications, high narcotics. And I was having a lot of those thoughts coming back around.
Wow.
And because I think my body was just trying to make sense, what's happening to us, what's happening, but it was a shock. And it took me a good, oh my God, easily a week. Easily.
To recalibrate.
Yes, exactly. And that was doing meditation 3 times a day and keeping my vibration up, and it's not like the energy where I'm at is low vibration at all, but it's just not what I came from. So it was a big shift.
It was not your baseline.
Very good. So look at, you just brought up recalibration, your baseline. Knowing these key words is, because that's what's happening.
So where are your crystals now? I want to talk about that because, I'm a person, I've been living in 14 years. I have moved 4 times. So I'm just curious about what are your crystals now? And can you feel them like, when are we going to get out of here?
Yes, I do. And it's so funny because I have a nephew who is struggling with, he's on the spectrum and he's struggling right now with being in school and allergies. And so they reached out to me to say, to find out what can be done. So I went ahead and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to have to start getting some of them out. They're in storage, very well packed, but I'm going to go get the apopholites out and take them into his room because I feel like he's really struggling with a lot of those things. And again, you're the one who brought these out of the ordinary, not your basic crystals, into my awareness. And they're very high vibration, and they feel so good that when you're around. So I feel that if I pick up those 2, at least he'll be doing better.
Yeah, and if it's for allergies, throw in some carnelian and some aquamarine in a combination to help him with the overall thing. I want to go back to something that you said at the beginning of when you started experimenting with crystals for your meditation and lucid dreaming and astral traveling, but at the same time, you said that you felt very centered and grounded. And for the people listening to us, they're going to be like, how can that be? Because you're out there with these crystals. I will be like high all the time. So how can you achieve that centeredness and
I really think that, well, let's talk about each of those crystals. The dendrite is a high vibration, but it connects the mind, the heart, right? And it aids in spiritual evolution. I have my notes here too, and it promotes calm. So look at the ones that I chose. So I have that. And the same thing with moldavite. Moldavite is another one with the crown, the heart, right? And the brow. So I have the crystals that are compatible to each other. Plus, I meditate. I am very dedicated to my meditations. I meditate at least 3 times a day. I love doing my 40 minutes of chanting that I do. So I do keep my body in a vibration to be in alignment with the crystals, because if you're not in alignment with them, I know people who can't even wear moldavite for 10, 15 minutes. They have it on just for a few minutes and they have to take it off. I can literally have it on for 24 hours.
Yeah, and it's that difference in vibration, but
exactly.
The point that you bring when you explain your routine is the commitment to self-care and to work on these things. And again, I have to bring up Diane and Lee yesterday, because my next class that I'm developing is for healers. So I was sharing with them some of the guidance that I've been receiving in using crystals. And one thing that we all have to remember is there's still going to be people coming to us, like the ones who go to the drugstore to get the painkiller and be done with it.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, this can be a painkiller, but it can be a deeper solution. Uh,
Right.
in that is part of how committed you are to your self-care and to the lifestyle, and what are you deciding your vibration is going to be.
Exactly.
It's
Because whatever you're going to put, like, especially like Moldavite, if you don't have your life in order or cleared up, you're going to be attracting a lot of debris.
oh yeah,
Yeah. And so that's on you. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Oh, so one more thing before we go, and is,
Sure.
so we've been talking about you personally in with your crystals and adopting this new modality. In your professional level, have you used the crystals to enhance your practice in any way?
Absolutely. They literally will speak to you. They literally will. I love a apophyllite. I mean, that is like one of my favorites. And so when I throw cards or I'm doing somebody's doing a consultation with somebody, I prefer to have that crystal around, along with whatever it is I'm wearing. But yes, and I feel that it really connects us. So while you have a client there, their vibration, as we're talking, we're still connected. And it just, I feel like it takes everything to a higher level. And it's also bringing me to a higher level to ask the right questions,
Oh,
So
important.
it's more like, it's almost like you're channeling the crystal. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, our friends, no matter how many years we are in the line of work, there's so many things out there,
So much to learn out there.
so much to learn, so exciting. Abby, thank you so much for doing this brief interview with me and talk to the audience of Everyday Crystal Magic. Uh, I wish a bigger home for you so you can have more crystals and share more of your teaching and your mentoring. Thank you. Love
Thank
you.
you, Eliana. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.